3 years ago, a customer of mine brought in his 2007 Honda Accord with 198,000 miles. The car was overheating intermittently, but the radiator looked fine on the outside. No visible leaks, no cracked hoses. When I pulled the radiator cap and looked inside, what I saw shocked me. The coolant passages were lined with a thick brown sludge that had been building up for years. The internal fins were so clogged that coolant could barely flow through half the radiator. This car was one hot summer day away from a complete engine failure. I asked the owner how often he changed his coolant. His answer was the same one I hear from almost every American driver. I have never changed it. It is supposed to be lifetime fluid, right? That is the biggest lie in automotive maintenance, and it is costing American drivers thousands of dollars in engine repairs every single year. The truth is, Japanese mechanics treat coolant maintenance completely differently than American shops. In Japan, cooling system maintenance is considered just as important as oil changes, maybe even more important. Because while bad oil wears your engine slowly over time, a failed cooling system destroys your engine in minutes. I have been working on Japanese cars for 19 years, and the coolant flush method I am about to show you is the single most effective thing you can do to prevent catastrophic engine failure. It costs $0 in specialized tools, uses common household items, and takes about an hour. But almost nobody in America does it because almost nobody knows it exists. Let me show you exactly how it works. Before I explain the Japanese method, you need to understand why conventional coolant maintenance fails. Most American drivers fall into one of two categories. Category 1, they never touch their coolant. The manual says it is good for 100,000 miles or 10 years, so they ignore it completely. Category 2, they pay a shop $150 to $200 for a coolant flush that actually does more harm than good. Here is the problem with both approaches. Coolant does not just cool your engine. It contains anti-corrosion additives that protect the aluminum, copper, and steel surfaces inside your engine and radiator. These additives break down over time regardless of mileage. After about 4 years, the coolant becomes acidic. It starts eating the metal surfaces it was designed to protect. Microscopic particles of corroded metal break off and circulate through the system. They clog the tiny passages in your heater core. They block flow through the radiator fins. They destroy the water pump seal from the inside. And here is the worst part. You cannot see any of this happening. Your temperature gauge stays normal until one day it does not. By then, the damage is done. The conventional shop flush is not much better. Most shops use a pressurized flush machine that forces cleaning chemicals through the system at high pressure. This sounds effective, but it can actually dislodge large chunks of deposits that then get stuck in narrow passages, creating blockages that did not exist before. The Japanese method takes a completely different approach. Step 1. The diagnostic check. Before you touch any coolant, you need to know what you are working with. This step takes 2 minutes and tells you exactly how urgent the situation is. Buy a coolant test strip from any auto parts store for about $3. These strips test the pH level and the concentration of anti-corrosion additives in your current coolant. Dip the strip in the coolant reservoir. If the pH reads below 7, your coolant has turned acidic and is actively corroding your engine from the inside. If the anti-corrosion additives read low or depleted, the coolant is no longer protecting the metal surfaces. Either result means you need to act immediately. Do not wait for your next scheduled service. Do not wait another month. The corrosion accelerates exponentially once it starts. I test every Japanese car that comes into my shop, regardless of the customer's complaint. In the last year alone, I have found 23 vehicles with coolant pH below 6.5. That is dangerously acidic. Most of those owners had no idea anything was wrong. Step 2. The gentle pre-rinse. This is where the Japanese approach diverges completely from the American flush method. Instead of blasting chemicals through the system, you gently dilute and remove contaminants over multiple cycles. Start with the engine completely cold. Never open a radiator cap on a hot engine. The coolant is under pressure and can cause severe burns. Open the radiator drain petcock at the bottom of the radiator. Let the old coolant drain completely into a bucket. On most Toyota and Honda models, The petcock is a small plastic valve on the lower passenger side of the radiator. You can turn it by hand or with a pair of pliers. Let it drain for at least 15 minutes. You want every drop out. Do not rush this step. Once drained, close the petcock. Now fill the entire system with plain distilled water, not tap water. Distilled water contains 0 minerals that could leave deposits. Start the engine and let it run for 10 minutes with the heater set to maximum heat. This circulates the distilled water through the entire system, including the heater core. Turn off the engine. Let it cool for 20 minutes. Drain again. You will be amazed at the color of the water that comes out. Even on a car with clean-looking coolant, the first rinse water will be discolored with suspended contaminants. Repeat this rinse cycle 3 times. Each time, the water will come out cleaner. By the 3rd rinse, it should come out nearly clear. This gentle, repetitive approach removes contaminants without dislodging large chunks that could cause blockages. Japanese mechanics have been using this method for decades because they understand that patience produces better results than force. Step 3. The vinegar treatment. This is the secret step that almost nobody in America knows about. After completing 3 distilled water rinses, fill the system one more time with a mixture of 90% distilled water and 10% white distilled vinegar. The vinegar is a mild acid that dissolves mineral scale and light corrosion deposits that the water rinses cannot remove. But unlike commercial flush chemicals, vinegar is gentle enough that it will not damage rubber hoses, gaskets, or plastic components. Run the engine for exactly 15 minutes with the heater on maximum. Not 10 minutes, not 20 minutes, exactly 15 minutes. Too little time and the vinegar does not dissolve the deposits. Too much time and the acidity can start working on the metal surfaces. Turn off the engine, let it cool completely. Drain the vinegar solution. Now do 2 more rinses with plain distilled water to remove all traces of vinegar from the system. Check the pH of the final rinse water with your test strip. It should read neutral at 7.0. If it still reads acidic, do 1 more distilled water rinse. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Step 4. The proper refill technique. This is where most DIY coolant changes go wrong, even among experienced mechanics. Air pockets in the cooling system are engine killers. A single trapped air bubble can cause a hot spot that warps a cylinder head. For Toyota and Lexus models, there is usually a bleed valve on the thermostat housing. It looks like a small bolt or screw. Open this valve before filling. Slowly pour pre-mixed coolant through the radiator cap opening. Pour slowly to minimize air bubbles. When coolant starts flowing steadily from the bleed valve, close the valve. Continue filling until coolant reaches the top of the radiator opening. For Honda and Acura models, there is typically a bleed bolt on the engine block near the thermostat. Same procedure. Open it. Fill slowly. Close when coolant flows steadily. For Subaru models, there are usually 2 bleed points, 1 on each cylinder head. You need to bleed both sides to prevent air pockets. After closing all bleed valves and topping off the radiator, fill the reservoir to the maximum line. Start the engine with the radiator cap still off. Let it idle for 5 minutes. As the thermostat opens, the coolant level in the radiator will drop. Top off is needed. Replace the radiator cap. Run the engine until it reaches full operating temperature. Check the reservoir level. It should be between the minimum and maximum marks. Step 5. The 48-hour verification protocol. This final step is what separates the Japanese method from everything else. Japanese mechanics never consider a coolant service complete on the same day. After driving the car normally for 48 hours, recheck the coolant level in the reservoir. If it has dropped, there may still be air pockets working their way out. Top off is needed. Check the level again after 1 week, and again after 1 month. Each time, any remaining air pockets will gradually work their way to the surface, and the level may drop slightly. After 1 month that the level stays stable, the service is complete. The schedule that prevents failures. Here is the maintenance schedule that Japanese mechanics follow, and that I now recommend to all my customers. For standard driving, flush and replace coolant every 3 years, or 50,000 miles, whichever comes first. For severe conditions such as hot climates, frequent short trips, or towing every 2 years or 35,000 miles. For high-mileage vehicles over 150,000 miles, every 2 years regardless of mileage. Between flushes, test your coolant with a test strip every 6 months. It takes 30 seconds and costs 50 cents. If the pH drops below 7.5, do not wait for the next scheduled flush. Act immediately. Let me tell you what these results actually look like in practice. Remember that Honda Accord I mentioned at the beginning? After performing the full Japanese coolant flush method, the owner followed the 3-year flush schedule religiously. That car now has 347,000 miles on the original engine. No overheating issues, no water pump failures, no head gasket problems. The coolant runs clean, and the system maintains perfect temperature regulation. Compare that to the average American Honda Accord owner who never thinks about coolant. At 347,000 miles, most of those engines have been rebuilt or replaced at least once. The cost difference is staggering. The Japanese coolant method costs about $25 in materials per flush. A distilled water jug is $1. A gallon of premixed coolant is $15 to $20. Vinegar costs $2. Test strips are $3. Over 10 years, you will do about 3 to 4 flushes at $25 each. That is $75 to $100 total. Without proper coolant maintenance, a single overheating event can cost $3,000 to $8,000 for a head gasket replacement. A radiator replacement runs $500 to $900. A water pump failure costs $400 to $700. The math is simple. Spend $100 on prevention or spend $4,000 to $9,000 on repairs. Japanese mechanics chose prevention decades ago, and their customers' cars show the results. If you found these tips helpful, be sure to watch this next video as I am sharing insider tips to help you cut repair costs and keep your car running like new.